whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today, but if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, Gavin.Rich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel GBoot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.
Hi, I'm attorney Gavin and Richard. Check out my latest book, The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in America. For approximately 2 years now, I have gone on a painstaking quest to investigate the rise and fall of an American icon, Bill Cosby. In the mid-1980s, there was not a star that was higher than Cosby. Advertisements with Coca-Cola, Jello, Kodak, along with the #1 television show for 5 straight years in a row. On Thursday nights, it was must-see TV on NBC. Cosby resurrected the genre of the traditional family sitcom that was once thought dead by television critics. He did this as a Black American with an all-Black cast and showed mainstream network executives in white America that it was possible to be successful without showing the worst in people. He also demonstrated the power that television had, as it can make younger people dream to be the best that they can be. However, like many celebrity stars, unfortunately, they all come crashing down, sometimes by their own fault, others not so much. In this book, I attempted to highlight certain things. We go in depth into both of his trials in 2017 and 2018, respectively. What if I told you that these criminal trials were politically motivated by an overzealous district attorney? Will you also be shocked to learn the attacks on Mr. Cosby did not start in 2014, but also in the 90s, not long after his attempted quest to purchase a major network? From where did all of these allegations of sexual misconduct come from? Were the accusers telling the truth? In the 2 years of research, with some help from others interested in learning the truth and facts about this case, we discussed both the legal reasons why his prosecution and trial were illegal, unwarranted, and also the possible personal motives as to why this may have occurred. Most importantly, we warn about the dangers of prejudice and why trial by social media, or mainstream media rather, should never be the norm. All this and more in The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in America. Available on Amazon this fall in Kindle and paperback format.
That is The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in the United States. That is available now on Amazon Kindle. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and get that book. You can put it right on your phone on Amazon Kindle, The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr. I was just promoting that book on Viral Hip Hop News. Shout out to Brother Sam if he is watching. And shout out to all who continue to support this channel despite shadow bans and demonetization. You all help me continue to drive me to push forward new content each and every day, ladies and gentlemen. It is the hottest live stream on YouTube, guys. It is Random Topic Sundays, only on channels GBoot2786 and Gavin Richard. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest for us today. Our topics are as follows. First, continued fallout from the midterm elections of 2022. more on the Kyrie Irving and the NBA, people doing a double take, even the higher ups in the NBA. We're also going to talk about how it relates to black men getting blamed for Stacey Abrams' loss. And also, I wanted to talk about this special news that came out. Mutulu Shakur, who is the stepfather of Tupac Shakur, granted an early release from prison due to a terminal illness. So we'll be discussing that as well. Well, he was in jail for 35 years, but I don't know if we call it an early release, but I guess it's what they call a passionate release from prison. And all this and more, ladies and gentlemen. And we have with us a man who is no stranger to social media. We're going to have our brother, and also he's a former congressional, he's a former candidate for Congress out in South Carolina running against Clyburn out there. We have Gregg Marcel Dixon, who is coming by, ladies and gentlemen. So I can't wait to talk all of these topics with our special guest. So he'll be here shortly. But of course, first, we got to pay our dues. I need you all to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Also, if you would like to support our channel, we already talked about advertising and Patreon, but also if you like to donate some, if you can purchase some Creole seasoning, my Creole seasoning blend, Nonnies. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nonnies goes great with every dish. And of course, our songs, Video Soul and Gotta Get On Up. So before we get on down, ladies and gentlemen, we always play our theme song, Gotta Get On Up. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to bring Gregg in a second. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, because on the dance floor is where we'll be. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you're breathing, you're achieving. So if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll be. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the floor, baby. Gotta get on the floor, baby. Come on, baby. Gotta get on the floor, baby. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the
Feel the groove, get on the floor, get on up. What's up? What's up, everybody? Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest. Welcome again to Gavin Richard Presents Random Topic Sundays. And we're going to bring in our special guest. But before I do, I'm going to play a quick clip of this brother. He was speaking last weekend at the rally for reparations. Here's Gregg Marcel Dixon. I have this clip here. I'm just going to play before we bring him on.
I mean, I'm sure some of them are in it, but where are they? And then I asked, where are our leaders? I don't know where they are, but I know where they should be, and they should be right here with us. Exactly. And then you look at these politicians with their six-figure salaries. Now, the Republicans, okay, they suck. I don't know who's responsible for them keeping their job, but I know who's responsible for the Democrats, and I call them Democrats because they feed off of us while doing nothing for us. That's right. Guess who's responsible for them keeping their jobs? We are. We are. For the past 60 years, the Democrats have existed off of the black vote. They will not exist without us. And yet we are heading to the point of economic and political extinction because of them.
Gosh, that cameraman sucked. I was getting dizzy looking at it. But, ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to please give a round of applause to this brother, Mr. Gregg Marcel Dixon. Gregg, we got you on the show, baby, finally. What's up, Gregg?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to Random Topic Sundays, man. Appreciate you. That was you speaking at the rally for reparations that was put on by Tariq Nasheed. And there were several other speakers, I believe, including Dwan B. I know Brother Rizzi Islam was supposed to be here, but he had an emergency. A few other speakers. I think Professor Small was there as well. James Small, I believe, was one of the speakers.
Yes, Teslin Figueroa, Dr. Mott, Boyce Watkins.
Yeah, Dr. Boyce.
Of course, Tariq Nasheed spoke.
Tariq, yeah.
And
I believe
Dwan B.
I said Dwan. Yeah.
Yes, I believe that is it.
Yeah.
Connie Collins as well. And of course, Jade. I forgot Jade's last name, but Jade, the hostess.
Right, so, the Lion Crowness, yeah.
Yes, Lioness Crown. Yes.
The Lioness Crown, excuse me, yeah.
Yes.
Plurality. Yeah, thank you for tuning in, man. I wanted to talk something that you just mentioned in that clip that we saw where you mentioned it, we were to point of extinction with regards to the Democrat. You call them the Democrats. Could you explain a little bit? Because I believe when you ran for Congress this year, you were registered. Were you running for the Democratic seat primary?
Yes,
okay.
I was on the Democratic ticket.
You're on the ticket, and how would that work in terms of eventually you were going to? I know you were running against Jim Clyburn, who's had that seat for too long. But could you explain for everybody who may be wondering, well, he's dissing the Democrats. Why is he registered? Why did he run on a Democratic ticket?
Well, first of all, like I said at that rally, I said it's policy always, party, never. So a person can run as a Democrat, a Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, Independent, doesn't matter. What matters ultimately are the policies that person is pushing. However, the reason I go in on the Democrats is because we've been voting for them for 60 years. So they have the responsibility for us politically, economically, socially. Our condition in this country is their responsibility because we've been giving them our votes, getting them elected to the highest office. And when you see that we only have 10% of the 16, 19 million acres of land that we once owned, and we've lost, I've had the majority of it stolen. Some of that happened before we started voting for them, but the fact that since we've been voting for them, they have not introduced legislation to specifically address descendants of American slaves having our land stolen. That's on them. The fact that we own less homes now than we did during Jim Crow, and we've been voting for them for 60 years, that's on them. The fact that our wealth is heading to zero and 20% of our families already at negative net worth, that's on them because we put them in office. So every single person that is a Democrat should have the same type of platform as me. Every party out there, they vote and they take care of the voters that primarily vote for them. When Republicans get elected, you merely hear them talking about the white working class because that's the majority of the people that vote for them. Only the Democrats do policies for everyone else while giving a middle finger to their primary voters, which are us. So I will continue to go in on them unapologetically, and I will continue to unapologetically run on a Democratic ticket as I am now during my re-election.
All right, then we're going to talk about your campaign for re-election because I know you ran earlier.
No, I shouldn't say re-election. Even I'm running for my campaign, giving it my second attempt.
Your second attempt to run for your first election into office. Hopefully, I'm praying for you. I supported you, by the way.
Thank you.
We supported a lot of people, even from out of the state, out of your state of South Carolina, were giving monies, I know, contributing to help you because we agreed with the platform that you have. And the Congressional Black Caucus, or Congressional Black Caucus, as many of us refer to, has been ineffective in many ways, not putting the agenda of Black America first, despite its namesake. I mean, they were talking about immigrants, illegal immigrants at that, before they were talking about Black people. And right now, before the Supreme Court, many people may not be aware of this, but affirmative action may be overturned, which affirmative action really has not benefited Black people in the first place. It's benefited white women. But we're talking about just to recap about the rally, because many people were trying to, well, I shouldn't say many people, but a few of the shills that were on YouTube and others had been trying to downplay the rally. And I think you may know who I may be referring to. One in particular, Mr. Martin, was talking about it. But I've seen nothing but positive feedback from it. Have you seen that, Marcel, since you've seen it? Because there's been nothing but positive things about it and action that is, I guess, that's taken place. What are the next steps?
One, the fact that some of these shills, sellout, and coons are trying to down it, that is positive feedback. If they were supporting it, that will be a negative thing. Anything that they are against is exactly something for which we should be for. Okay? So let me be very clear about that. Two, it's been a swell of positive feedback. At that rally, several people, Black men is particular, mentioned that they are going to be running for office. Some said they would do it on a federal level. Some said they would do it on a local level. But they got the message that the rally was primarily pushing. In order for us to get the lineage-based reparations owed to descendants of American slaves and to get the other policies that we should have gotten a long time ago from these Democrats, we have to run for office. We have to become the candidates running on the platform that our people not only deserve, but our people need.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And speaking of us being blamed for everything, what you mentioned, the fact that blacks have been voting 60 years for the Democratic Party, I guess going back to the time of JFK, which is when it really increased. There was a time actually when a lot of blacks were Republicans and so forth, even before that. And then in the 60s, we had JFK and then Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded John F. Kennedy after his assassination, implementing programs like the War on Poverty, which many people looking in retrospect all.
Hello? Gavin? Did I lose him or did I drop? Those of you in the comment, can y'all still hear and see me?
I can see you. You have to forgive me. I got to tell you this too, Marcel. Sometimes, yeah, I'm in my studio, and sometimes the internet may flicker and flicker out, or it might be YouTube messing over.
Okay.
So,
It's okay. Trust me. I'm in Clyburn's district. The internet here is horrible. But to his credit, he finally did something that he's been talking about for a long time. And he finally passed legislation to help get high-speed internet here. So recently, I've been able to get a much, much, much better quality of internet after suffering for so long, being basically disconnected from the outside world in many respects. So that's the only reason why I wasn't sure if it was me or if it was you. Other than that, I would have known it was me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it was me this time.
Okay.
We'll blame Clyburn for something later, but
oh yeah, there's plenty for which you can take the blame. So trust me, I can give him credit for one thing.
So as I was saying,
and still
especially
know that
in local. Yeah, Marcel, you can finish.
No, I was saying there's plenty for which he could take the blame. So I can give him credit for something good he's done, not really him. And there's still plenty of blame for him to take.
Right. And speaking of when we talk about the Democrats, if you just look at every major American city, when I look at that's predominantly black, like for instance, I live in New Orleans. You know, if you look at New Orleans, you look at Chicago, you look at Atlanta, which were areas that were once thriving in the black community, and you have these Democratic mayors in it, and there are areas of the city that have not been, you know, that have not gotten anything. You know, and I live in a city, as I've talked about, a neighborhood in New Orleans East that was once thriving, and now for the last, I want to say 30, 40 years that we've had black mayor, we've had Democratic leaders, it's fallen apart in these cities. And we talk about Atlanta. I was there in Atlanta in 2020 when Keisha Lance Bottoms, or as Jason Black says, Keisha Bottom B, was running. And this, you know, Atlanta at one point was the Black Mecca. That's what they had called it. And now the Mecca has burned. It's in shambles in some ways. So it's sad to look at that. And we had you know, John Lewis's, and I know he's deceased, but John Lewis's area where he represented for years, you would go I was going under the interstate, and you see nothing but homeless population. Same thing in New Orleans. We see nothing but homeless people under the Claiborne Avenue Bridge. So what are these people doing? And why they're not being called out?
First of all, we don't need to look at them as the problem. The problem are people who look like us, the people voting for them. Okay, we have to take responsibility for being complicit in our own neglect, our own terrorism. It is common sense. If I vote for you and you've had a period of time to do policies to make my quality of life better, and I see my quality of life steadily deteriorating, I see that my quality of life has not improved, It is common sense to tell me that you are not deserving of my vote. But what do we do in the Black community often? We vote for someone simply because they are a Black face. We make excuses for why they have not been able to perform on our behalf. An excuse we love to use is that it's the Republicans, it's the Republicans, it's the Republicans. Hell no. Okay, if I'm voting for you to be a leader, you are going to come back to me with policies that I can see that you've written, that you've introduced, that you've brought to the floor of Congress, or you've tried to get to the floor of Congress, that specifically to address my needs. If you look at a lot of these Black Democrats, they do not have even one bill that they've ever written to specifically address the needs of descendants of American slaves. But what you will find is that a lot of them have bills to address the needs of illegal immigrants, LGBTQ, Ukrainians, Afghani refugees, corporations. They have these rising tide lifts all boats type policies, which we know we don't have a boat. We built the boats and they threw us in the shark infested waters a long time ago. So it's not even a matter of if they try to bring these bills to the floor to get a vote that the bills would fail. It's a matter of, have you even tried to stand up for us? You are a leader. A leader's not supposed to do what is easy. A leader's not supposed to concern themselves with what is popular. A leader is supposed to concern themselves with what is right. So even if you do a bill that's the most unpopular thing in the world, it's the right thing to do. As a leader, that's what you're supposed to do, especially when you are standing up for Black Americans. I'm not talking about no Black immigrants. I'm talking about descendants of American slaves. If you see that we have the highest percentage of homelessness in the country, and we do, we're 60% of the homeless, even though we're like 15 to 20% of the population. It is your job to say that Black Americans have the highest level of homelessness because, one, they put highways and railroads through our communities, which they're still doing. Two, lynching, the number one cause of lynching was Black land theft. Three, we have a system called heirs property where no one owns the property, but you have to share the property, but you'll never benefit from it. Black Americans are the number one group for owning property in that way, and that makes your property easy to sell. Four, we were never given a penny of the wealth that our ancestors were supposed to inherit after they raised over $50 trillion building this nation. So we have the least amount of wealth. So we're the most likely to lose our home and lose our land. When you look at all of those factors and more combined, you see why we have the highest homeless population. You will not find one bill that a lot of these Black leaders like Clyburn have written that addresses this issue. But you will see that he's written bills for Native Americans, the Catawba, who used to be slave owners and who used to be slave hunters. He wrote a bill for them to get 20 acres of land so they can build a multi-million-dollar casino from which they will get billions of dollars and be able to give $1 million or more cash to each member of their tribe. You will not see where he's done anything like that for Black Americans. But that's our fault because we keep voting for him. And what does South Carolina have to show for it? Cities that were once majority Black, like Charleston, South Carolina, Black Americans are now 20 to 21% of the population. You go to downtown Charleston, you can see the fingerprints of the Black people who built that city. You can see their fingerprints, you can see their footprints, men, women, and children. You will also now see their great-great-grandchildren sleeping on those same streets with no home, no food, not a roof over their head. But who keeps putting Clyburn back in office? We do. And why? Because he's a Black face. He talks a good game, and he doesn't even really do that. If we listen to all of the things he said, you will hear how much hatred this guy has for Black Americans in his heart. But because he's a Black face, because he's friends with some people in some churches, they come out and they vote and they put him back in office. And what does he do? He goes hard for illegal immigrants that have shown that hurts Black America. A lot of these illegal immigrants from Asia, and from Latin America, Mexico, they hate Black Americans. You can see a lot of data showing they hate Black Americans, and yet he's pushing for them to get citizenship, to get jobs, to get houses, while his people have nothing.
Yeah.
It is our fault for continuing to support him.
And then with that, when we're talking about this, because now we're talking about the fallout from the midterm elections. It's funny you mention all that. It's important you mention that because the Democrats have been pushing very hard for illegal immigrants, and it has backfired on them because now you've seen from the stats, most of them are voting conservative. They go on with the Republican Party. So they're not reelecting these Democrats. I mean, Val Dennings, for instance, out in Florida, she ran for senator and got bounced. It wasn't even close. And you saw also what's going on in Georgia with Herschel Walker versus Raphael Warnock. That's heading to a runoff. And then Stacey Abrams losing her second attempt at governor. And she lost by over 100,000. It was well over 100,000 votes. It wasn't even close that she won this. But Black men continue to take the rap for how bad she ran her campaign. And in fact, she was known during the campaign to say the following things, and we talked about this over the last week. I talked with this with my followers, but this was an article in Bloomberg. She said Stacey Abrams struggles with Black male voters in Georgia while wielding national clout, and she actually was quoted saying, "If Black men vote for me, we win." Now, this was October 11th. The election was on November 4th, if I'm not mistaken. So, no, I'm sorry, it was just this past Tuesday, 4th. Was it the 4th? No, no. Let me see. It was just this past Tuesday.
Past Tuesday.
So, I think it's the 8th. Excuse me. Yeah, the 4th was 2 weeks ago. But you say this stuff, and Black men are like the second largest base for the Democratic Party after Black women. Black women have always supported the Democrats no matter what. And yet in Atlanta, she makes these remarks before the election even took place. She got Keisha Lance Bottoms on MSNBC lying on her own son, her own kids, about how they're being targeted by misinformation. And I see the ads on NBA, on the NBA and so forth, not naming what the misinformation is. But from a standpoint of just being a man, if someone, and this is not a black or white thing, but if someone insults you just in general and then asked you for $10 before they insulted you, would you give them your $10 after they've insulted you and put you down?
Absolutely not.
And this woman, who, let's be real, she's not a good candidate. She had no good platform in which she alienated her base, she alienated Black men for doing it, even though 84% Black men still voted for her out in Georgia. But you had white people who came out, especially in the rural areas, to say, we're going to stick with Brian Kemp. And then the nerve of people to get mad because Brian Kemp talked to Killer Mike and blaming Killer Mike for this. Killer Mike is a man. I can choose to talk to whoever I want. If the conversation is going to be productive, just like with Donald Trump, if there's something, and I may not like Donald Trump personally, but if there's going to be something productive, like Ice Cube meeting with Donald Trump and Ice Cube,
I'm going to be there.
I will be there to listen to him if it's going to move the needle forward. I talk with Judge Joe Brown all the time, and Judge Joe Brown even said this himself. They asked him when he was on Curtis Schoon's show, he said, "Do you think Black people are missing an opportunity with Trump?" And he said, "Absolutely.
Absolutely, we are.
We lost our." Truth be told, he didn't really hurt Black people like talking about it. He said obviously a lot of things that were ignorant. And yes, there were some things, some policies I didn't agree with, but there were some things. Yes, I think there needs to be a crackdown on illegal immigration. That's me personally. If you want to come in this country, then you come in legally, like everybody else. Because we have, and this is another thing, Greg, we have congressional representatives and senators who, because of party alignment and ideology, are breaking the law because they're supporting something that's clearly in the United States Code says is against the law. You're supporting this stuff. And I just think, Stacey Abrams, when we look at the statistics here, and I'm not just looking at Stacey Abrams, this is Raphael, this was the stats for Warnock's campaign versus Herschel Walker. Warnock, if we can jump to him, he's not that strong of a candidate either. If you can't beat Herschel Walker, you look at the stats here. If you got 49.4% and Herschel Walker had 48.5%. So
let me explain something. It's not just Stacey Abrams. Look at Beto O'Rourke in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Latinos voted for Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott, who I cannot stand. The only thing where I probably align with Greg Abbott is he's very 2A, but he's far more to the right than I. I believe that if you're going to be a gun owner, there should be background check. There should be training. There should be a process. However, Greg Abbott, where he and I do agree, he's extremely, at least on the surface, a lot of them are against illegal immigration. Then you go to their policies and see whom they have working for them, and you see nothing but illegal immigrants there. So that's a whole other story. But Greg Abbott, at least on the surface, is very anti-illegal immigrant. And yet a lot of Latinos, voted for Greg Abbott over Beto O'Rourke, who is pretty much open borders. So yes, eventually the Democratic Party is on the verge of extinction. They can celebrate. Not sure why they're celebrating. Okay, listen to me. The Republicans suck. Republicans suck. The Republicans, I'm surprised that they've picked up what, 16 or 17 House seats so far. I believe the number is 16. And they've held on to a good bit of Senate seats too. If the Democrats are able to keep the Senate in the House, it's going to be by the slimmest of margins. Now, the Democrats, I guess, are celebrating because typically speaking, the party in power tends to lose more seats than they pick up during a midterm election. However, with Joe Biden being so unpopular, he's more unpopular than Trump. The Democrats are probably surprised they're doing this well. But let me explain to you, here's the problem. The Republicans suck. Tell me, what policy did the Republicans have that they were pushing to help benefit the lives of Americans? Can you name one thing the Republicans were pushing that Americans had for them to vote? They were pushing for things that they wanted to stop. Like supposedly, like drag shows in schools and the transgender agenda. Okay, yeah, I can agree with that. We should keep those things out of school. I've been a teacher for almost 20 years. I cannot imagine talking with my students about my sexual orientation, my love life, and how I choose to identify. No. However, that's okay. The Republicans have to have more than just no. What policies are you going to implement to make the lives of Americans better? Did you notice something about the Republicans this time around, Gavin? They usually are, a few of them, Herschel Walker, which, like you said, Herschel Walker should never even have gotten this close for Raphael Warnock. The fact that it's going to a runoff, I hate Warnock. I absolutely despise that sellout coon. But I expected him to win. I did not expect Walker to give him a run for his money like this. And you know what hurt Warnock? When he did that debate with Walker and the fact that he didn't wipe the floor with Herschel Walker, a lot of people were expecting it to be him, expecting Walker to get trounced because a lot of people, they don't think Herschel Walker is the most intelligent man out there. And yet he was able to hold his own against Warnock. The fact that Warnock could not trounce Herschel Walker, I think that hurt Warnock and helped Walker. But also, Walker is very anti-illegal immigrant. But did you notice the Republicans who usually make the border crises their number one talking point? They mention it, but they're not as loud about it as they typically are. And that's something to notice because a lot of them are just as open border as the Democrats. My thing is, the Republicans, in my opinion, they should not have picked up any seats because they don't have any policies. Name one thing that they're pushing that is going to benefit the lives of Americans. Name one thing that they're saying they're going to do for which the average American can be excited. you won't. It's hard to think
You
of
don't
anything.
say anything
But
like
hold on. Let me say this. Even with that being the case, though, the Republicans have picked up 16 seats, according to CNN Election Center. The Republicans have picked up 16 seats thus far. And that's with them having nothing. And like you said, a lot of that is because a lot of these Latinos are voting for the Republicans. Here's another thing. We keep saying 84% of black men. First of all, blame it on me. Say it's my fault. Chris at Michelle, blame it on me. I want to be the villain. If you want to blame a black man, blame me. Okay? However, I always say blame the candidates. Blame the candidates. 84% of black men came out and voted for Stacey Abrams. However, that is not 84% of all black male voters. That's just 84% of the black men that voted.
Right.
You still have hundreds and thousands of black men who are registered to vote who said, I ain't voting for none of y'all. Then you have black men who are eligible to vote but haven't even bothered to register. There's thousands, millions of black men in this country, hundreds of thousands in Georgia that have not bothered to vote or that have not even bothered to register to vote, that the Democrats are not reaching. And then you have the 16%, okay, who have decided to vote Republican or Libertarian or probably not for any candidate. The Democrats are on the verge of extinction. And here's why I say that. First of all, these Latino and Hispanics are voting in large numbers for Republicans. Asians, especially Chinese Americans, are voting increasingly for Republicans. Black immigrants, far more than Black American immigrants, vote for the Republicans. But check this out. Some Republicans are waking up. I know people say it's never going to happen, but they don't know. They can't predict the future, and neither can I. I know what I've experienced. When I went to an election integrity event, and by the way, let me just say this, because I know they get offended if I don't say this. People who say they are MAGA Trump supporters, they get offended when you call them Republicans. A lot of them hate. They hate. Let me tell you, as much as you know the type of anger I have towards the Democratic Party, a lot of them have a lot of hatred and anger towards the Republicans, the establishment, as they call them. However, Gavin, when I go to these Republican events, I get people who give me their cards, want to reach out to me, sit down with me. A lot of them are Republican strategists. All it takes is a small section of the Republican Party to wake up and say, you know what? Look at these black voters who are angry with the Democrats. Some of them are voting for the Democrats because they feel that they are the lesser of two evils. If we actually come out with some policies for them, we can pull just enough of them over to the Republicans and send the Democratic Party into extinction. Yeah. Some Republicans don't care about that. They'll rather lose before they do something for black voters. However, there is a segment of the Republican Party, the ones that consider themselves anti-establishment, that are waking up to the fact that there's an opportunity for them to attract black voters.
Right. And you know, Donald Trump was really the anti-establishment Republican because he's actually an independent. He was Democrat for a while. A lot of people don't know that. But what you're saying is absolutely right about Republicans. They have no strategy. They are more defensive than they are offensive. And I feel that that's something when they just say no to everything, that's a turnoff. However, there are things I'm 2A all the way myself. Beto O'Rourke was talking about taking away AR-15s and AK-47s. I couldn't align with that. And if you're running
attitude, if you got white supremacists and anti-black extremists who have those type of weapons, they ain't gonna give them up. And what you're not going to do is come and take AR-15s from black Americans when we need those guns to go after or defend ourselves against those who are going to target us. So no, I'm not with that either.
No, I mean, and you know what? Even to just being in your home, you don't know if you're going to have one offender or multiple offenders come in, and I don't think I need more than a 6-shooter to just take them out. But you're absolutely right. That's what the Deacons of Defense did when the Klan would march in their neighborhood. These men were former military, Army, World War II veterans, Marines, and they had their M1 carbines and their AK-47s and so forth, and sniper rifles, and told them, turn your ass back around. They shot at them, and they did. So that's what we have to do, and that's why I'm 2A away. And when these crazy Democrats come out with these policies, that turns people off, I think, more, which is why you saw a lot of people vote Republican.
Let me talk about that. It's Stacey Abrams, perfect example. This woman was pushing abortion. The Republicans don't have any policies. The Republicans don't have any policies, and the Democrats have awful policies. They're pushing for abortion. Instead of this woman talking about she's going to do policies to make Black families, make an environment more conducive to Black families, make it so that where Black couples can have more Black babies and raise their beautiful Black children, she's over there saying the reason you are worried about food and gas prices, electricity prices, is because you had a Black child. Kill your children. That is disgusting. You should be addressing the causes of abortion. We should be wanting to have more beautiful Black babies, not abort them, okay? Look, that's what the Democrats are pushing, and that's white feminism. That's white feminism. Margaret Sanger, who really wanted to exterminate the Black population, she was the one pushing this idea that Black people should not have children, which has now evolved or devolved, if you want to say, to abortion, mass abortion. Stacey, with this whole gun confiscation thing, we can't even check this. Tell me what sense this makes. We have literal terrorists and criminals out there that they have failed to catch right now. What are they going to possibly do to take over 400 million guns, or a large percentage of 400 million guns, from law-abiding Americans? Would it not make more sense just to go after those who have already expressed intent to harm and intent to terrorize? Would it not make more sense for us to use our limited human resources to target the bad people who are out there planning to do awful things with these guns, instead of trying to take guns from law-abiding Americans who are never going to commit a crime with these guns? That would make more sense to me.
It would make more sense, but the thing is, here's something that even Jason Black said yesterday. Had they not had abortion, Stacey Abrams might have had more Black people show up to vote for it.
Exactly.
The fact is that
I've always said that.
Right. And the fact of the matter is, you're pushing something really that was not really the biggest issue that everybody was talking. The biggest issue that everyone was focused on was the economy, was jobs.
It's the biggest issue for white feminists, and that's who Stacey Abrams' audience. Her audience was white feminists. For Black Americans, we say the economy. What I'm trying to get my people to understand, the economy is reparations. Our economic woes are connected to the fact that at the end of slavery, we had raised at least $42 trillion just in our value. The cost of all of us, our labor alone at the end of the Civil War was $42 trillion in today's value. We never got a penny of that. That's where that's why we have economic worries. But you see, we have to educate our people about that. And unfortunately, if we don't have better candidates than Stacey Abrams, a lot of our people are going to vote for whomever has a D by their name. Some of our people, my great-grandmother, for example, they would literally go to the ballot and vote the Democrat down ballot. They never even looked at the candidates. We have to get our people to understand that, one, no one deserves your vote just because of their party affiliation. They should earn your vote because of their policies position. Two, this is more important. Gavin, we have to run for office. If we don't give our people the better option, our people are always going to vote for the so-called less of the the less evil of the two options. That is the two things we have to get out there. We have to become the candidates, giving our people those better options.
And I think, well, let me reiterate this because a lot of people do still, especially our elders, vote because of this person black or they got the right tie on. When Maynard Jackson ran for Atlanta, mayor of Atlanta, or Dutch Morale in New Orleans, and Harold Washington out in Chicago, I think during those times it was easier for us because we were trying to make history, but those men also understood they had a difficult task at hand and they had to put in work. Maynard Jackson revitalized that airport, Hartsfield Jackson, that's named after him, and made it a multi-billion-dollar, basically, corporation that he had. However, he also made sure that blacks got a percentage of that. That black, when they were contracting to fix up that airport, Maynard said 80% got to go to black folk.
Yes, he did.
And he told them, take it or leave
Mary
it.
and Mary.
Right. Maynard, Dutch Morale, who was the first black mayor here in New Orleans, he had the guts to cancel Mardi Gras when the police department was on strike. He said, okay, so you're going to strike while we want Mardi Gras? Well, I can't do what one got to go. So since you're striking, I'm canceling Mardi Gras. You know, they understood there was a difficulty with stuff that they had to do, and they took it and ran with it. And somehow or another, but after
Look
that,
at Marion Barry in D.C.
Yeah.
Marion Barry made sure that a lot of these, he pushed for Black Americans to have a big presence and participation in the large government job sector of D.C. Made it somewhat, you know, a black middle class has always been an illusion, but he made it to where Black Americans were able to participate in the economy of D.C. that revolves a lot around the federal government. The problem is, Gavin, those individuals are no longer with us, and what we are left with now are the James Clyburns and the Karen Basses, the ones that sold out. They use their history as part of the civil rights movement to try to make it seem as if that is the same people of today that they were then. No, some of the ones that were real were either killed off or they were ostracized. What's the gentleman's name that ran against that John Lewis? What was the Julian
Bond?
Julian Bonds. Julian Bonds, look at how they did him. Julian Bonds was a lot more conscious and spoke a lot more to the needs of the Black American community. And look how they went out their way to make sure he didn't get in there. And we got John Lewis, who every time, the only thing he could say was he spilled blood in Selma. Okay, and we are now seeing our people spill blood in Atlanta. Our people spill blood in Savannah. Our people spill blood in Charleston. Our people spill blood in Columbia. Our people are spilling blood everywhere because we still have not had the policies, reparations being one of them, that we need to address our needs. And you still don't hear them talking about it.
Most definitely. Yeah. Someone had asked question, was Dutch Morale good for black folk? Dutch Morale, I think well, I wasn't around when Dutch Morale was mayor, but most of what I've heard, people have said some positive things about him. Now, his son, maybe not so much, because Mark Morale, you know, is the National Urban League. But he, this is just a little bio on Dutch, and anyone can look at. Shout out to DeAndre Mosley. Shout out to Danielle Meyer, because Danielle was in the ER room and she said all tests came back negative about her baby. So very good. But yeah, he did do some positive things. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But a lot, you know, just like I think Maynard did great things with Atlanta. And as Greg pointed out, your Marion Barry, despite what he was going through, which I think he was being set up, because I even watched a video where they kept trying to get him to smoke the crack with the girl, and he didn't want to do it, so they entrapped him. They kept doing it. At some point, there has to be a stop. But yeah, he did have to do some good things. Someone asked Marcel, did you have a YouTube channel?
I do. It is called Gregg Marcel Dixon for Congress.
Y'all heard that, Gregg Marcel Dixon for Congress on YouTube. Go there and subscribe now. And we talk about.
I haven't been using it a lot, but I'm going to, really make use. It's Gregg Marcel Dixon for South Carolina. Excuse me. Gregg Marcel Dixon for South Carolina. I don't use it often, but I'm going to start updating it very soon.
Most definitely. Before you get out of here, Greg, I do just quick thing I want to talk about, because something that made me want to bring you on is that you and I had something in common. We retweeted this video on Friday, and I said I got to have him come on and talk about this. But did y'all see this? This is our next topic. This was Jalen Rose, when Jalen Rose and Shannon Sharpe were being dragged for how they reacted with our brother Kyrie Irving. And now the NBA has been doing a backtrack on the Kyrie Irving situation. Adam Silver, who's the NBA commissioner, said he spoke with him and found there was no, and he was not anti-Semitic. Same thing with your Joe Tsai, who is the owner of the Nets, Brooklyn Nets. He stated that he didn't believe he was anti-Semitic. Well, here's the question. If you don't believe he's anti-Semitic, why is he still suspended? So you had Jalen Rose. This was a separate issue, but Jalen Rose was talking about what happened with Ime Udoka. And he asked the question, why wasn't the woman's name? Why wasn't the girl named in Ime Udoka situation, since it was consensual relationship? And he brought up a power dynamic. But I'm going to play this clip because I know Marcel's got to run, but I'm going to get his take. But I want y'all to listen very closely. This man looks like he's at gunpoint saying this.
Let me have a conversation about my blackness for a second.
Well, maybe not gunpoint, but he looked like he was at gunpoint.
No, he's just cool, man.
In an election year, and also when you have circumstances that Ime Udoka put himself in, circumstances that you have Kyrie Irving put himself in, I've literally seen people trying to politicize the messengers, and I'm one of those people. And let me just say this out loud. It's very important. I did more for this culture before 9 a.m. today than most people gonna do in their lifetime. Just because I don't think Kyrie should be derailing the next season, just because I don't believe that the lady's name should be exposed based on the fact that the power dynamics are at play, and it's more to the Ime situation than most of you guys know. If I'm not trumpeting what is low-hanging fruit, that don't make me a sellout. And by the way, I was with the great Sir Charles Barkley last night, and we had a 2-hour conversation about this. 2-hour conversation about this in person. Had a 2-hour conversation with Charles Barkley about this. Just because I don't agree with Kanye or Kyrie, that don't mean that I'm cooning for the man. That means that I don't believe what he's doing is right. That's a fact. And so it's important for people that look like me, Jacoby, in particular, to not politicize what's happening with Kyrie and Ime and Kanye and shoot the messenger. I ain't gonna always ride with somebody just because they black. If I think you wrong, I don't care what color you are. That's just being real. I ain't about to be following behind somebody that I think is wrong. And let me tell y'all something. What he doing in acts of civil rights. He's not being oppressed. He ain't being oppressed. He get $40 million to play basketball this year. He ain't being oppressed.
You're saying this shit. He's saying this stuff. I want y'all to look at the end. This is insulting. Just look at what's behind Jalen Rose right now. I see not only a picture. It looks like a collage of black artists and so forth, athletes, and behind him you got Bill Russell, the late Bill Russell, the late great Muhammad Ali, when they had that summit when Ali refused to be drafted in the United States Army, and to Jalen's left shoulder on our right appears to be a bust of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he is talking this nonsense and even quoting Charles Barkley. The minute you quote Charles Barkley, and especially when you're talking about blackness, I was done. You're done. If you quote Charles Barkley, who said slavery wasn't that bad, because I never lived in Erna. I don't know if slavery was that bad. Really? You think Charles Barkley would say he didn't think the Holocaust was that bad? The Jewish community, Kyrie and Kyrie, that could happen to you. And Jalen Rose, I don't ride for somebody. I don't ride for. Oh, please. You're riding Molly Curl. I lost a lot of respect for this man, brother. I remember when he did cold pizza and called out Skip Bayless, but I don't know what's going over at ESPN with these Negroes. Go ahead, Marcel.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I would be disappointed if I had any expectations for these big waste of space coons in the first place. These athletes are some of the biggest, sorriest, most pathetic, softest men out there. I didn't know Charles Barkley made that statement about slavery was not that bad, but he should have been canceled for that. But you see, disrespecting us is okay. It's okay to disrespect us, and we've allowed that. Charles Barkley should not be able to show his face anywhere in this country again, talk about slavery wasn't that bad. But like you said, he will never say the Holocaust was not that bad. You see how comfortable they are disrespecting us? I muted that video of that big coon talking just now. I muted it. I know he has some school. Let me tell y'all something. As a public school teacher for 20 years, I can tell you, I know many anti-black bigots that have opened schools and work in schools and give the facade of wanting to help the black children and are just as anti-black as you can be. So having some school is not proof of a damn thing. Second of all, talking about Kyrie's not oppressed. Even there has never been any time in this nation where we have not had black Americans that have had some level of money and wealth, and they were still likely, far more likely than a poor white person, to be shot and killed. And first and foremost, they have to watch TV and see their black brothers and sisters who are not as fortunate as them live in heartbreaking poverty, have contaminated water, work their fingers to bone and never make it out of that poverty. And first and third, they are still owed reparations whether they have money or not. So just by the very fact that they have not gotten what is due to them means they are oppressed. No one would tell a white Jew who's going to inherit whatever wealth that their parents are going to leave for them, that if they don't get it, but they still have money, that they're not oppressed. They will say that white Jewish person still deserves their inheritance. It goes for a descendant of American slave that much more so. He needs to shut his damn mouth. Talk about some power dynamic. A white woman in America is always going to have more power than any black man. I know that guy, Nia Long's husband. I don't even know the guy's name, but I know that guy is not a descendant of an American slave. But the fact that he's a black man in this country, a white woman is always going to have more power. We've seen that for centuries when all it takes is a white woman, plain Jane, ain't nobody want them, looking as plain as they want to look, saying some black man looked at them or touched their little nose behind having themselves, and then all of a sudden, here comes the lynch mob. So what power imbalance is he talking about? The power is with the white woman, not with some black man. He needs to shut his mouth. I don't be listening. I don't watch those videos. I suffered through that one time. But when you played it just now, I had it on mute. I don't have the patience to look at that stuff.
No, and you know, these athletes, here's another thing people got to do. They cannot look at athletes. We cannot look at athletes as leaders and spokespersons. Please stop this. Whenever they want to meet, politicians want to meet with someone, I see them meeting with a rapper, you know, Joe Biden sitting down with Cardi B. And Stacey Abrams went to a Lotto concert. She actually had to sit through a Lotto concert so she could get black people out to vote. You go to these rappers and athletes like it means something that has weight. It doesn't. It doesn't have weight anymore. Jay-Z, doing stuff for Hillary Clinton. It didn't. It's not gonna hold up because
it actually turns some people off, probably.
It does. She turned people off too when she went on the Breakfast Slubs, talking about how she brings hot sauce with her when she go out and eat and stuff. Like, I'm supposed to drop everything and vote for you because you put hot sauce on fried chicken. Oh my girl. Like, please. This is an insult. This is insult.
May I say something before I leave? I want to say Warnock. This is a hard choice. I actually think Stacey Abrams is a much better. I actually think she's brilliant, far more brilliant than a lot of these idiots we have in Congress. That don't mean she's good for us, but I actually think she's far more brilliant and far more adept than a lot of these candidates that we have, a lot of these people we have in office, a lot of these other candidates. I mean, this is a woman who registered over, 1 million black voters and got Georgia to vote for this Ku Klux Klan bigot with the crackhead son, but he locked up other black people for doing little to nothing. Warnock is only doing as bad as he is, which he's still doing good enough to not have laws outright. But the fact that Herschel Walker probably don't even know he's running for office right now. He probably like, well, I'm on TV. Herschel Walker don't know what's going on. But the fact that Warnock can't beat Herschel Walker is because Warnock is benefiting from the fear of the unknown. You see, when Kemp won, there was a lot of rage towards Kemp, and rightfully so, because I do believe what he did was unethical in the first election. You should not have been Secretary of State while running for governorship. I do believe that was unethical. I do believe that Stacey Abrams was treated unfairly. However, people thought that Kemp was going to be like an abomination. And I guess people are saying, well, maybe not so bad. And I guess people aren't so angry at Kemp. He's probably not as bad as people thought. People have that fear of Walker. They feel like this guy can barely say a string of sentences together. And yet he still gave Warnock a run for his money during a debate. But if Warnock was running against any other candidate for the Senate, Warnock would have lost. And I don't think we're processing that yet. Warnock is such a pathetic candidate that he cannot even beat Herschel Walker, who ain't offering no policies that's going to help anyone, who can barely string a sentence together, and yet Warnock still can't beat him. If Warnock was running against any other candidate that had even a slither of sense, he would have lost. That's how pathetic he is.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you could run, you should run the floor on Herschel Walker. You can't do it. It's problematic.
We have to run for office. We have to become the candidates that our people not just deserve, but our people need. And we have to do it now before they give these illegals to right to vote and they have Black Americans living in the same conditions that they have Afro-Latinos, because we ain't that far off from there.
Most definitely. Well, Greg, I know you got to run. I won't keep you any further, brother, but this is where you can find Gregg Marcel Dixon at twitter.com/Marcel for Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, please go there, follow this brother, support him. We throw our support behind any candidate if their agenda is for us, and he certainly has mine. And I'm here in New Orleans, but I certainly send my support to him out in South Carolina. What city are you in South Carolina, by the way?
I'm in my hometown, Ridgeland.
Ridgeland. All right. Support our brother from Ridgeland, South Kakalaki, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gregg Marcel Dixon. Thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you so much, Gavin, for having me.
And he followed me back on Twitter, so I feel even more excited. I'm glad, brother. Thank you. We got to have you come back on when you're free, or anytime. We do this show every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So if you ever just want to watch, if you're not doing anything, that's great to just go ahead and watch. If you ever want to come on, open platform here too. So,
well, you're a lawyer, right?
I am.
Well, let me tell you, I may need some legal advice. I wasn't sharing this with everyone, but now I'm going public with it because I refuse to let my former employer get away unscathed. I recently came out on Twitter and revealed to everyone that, I lost my job. And when my former employer, the director, her name is Karen Wicks, when she informed me that she would not be inviting me back, she referenced my race and my sex. She said, I already mentioned you being an angry black man. I don't need to be a lawyer to know that, because I've done interviews. I've interviewed people before on a job. You can't mention their race, their sex, their gender, their pregnancy status, none of those things. And she did those two things. And I have a right to sue letter. It expires pretty soon. So I'm really trying to find someone. And South Carolina does not have a lot of employment lawyers. A lot of the ones that do practice labor law, they usually just handle like workers' compensation, personal injury. So, and the other ones, they usually represent employers, not employees. So I've been having a time trying to find someone. And the ones that are accepting cases, they have a boatload of cases. One person, I figured this, one person says since COVID-19, the number of people having issues with their employers has skyrocketed. So I'm really running against the clock here, but I refuse to let my former employer go unscathed. And I have proof that everything that I say happened, that those comments were made. I have documentation galore. And it started really when I started running for office. So yeah, so there's always a backlash when you stand up for our people, but I welcome the hatred and I welcome the backlash.
Well, I'll email you a little bit more about that.
Thank you so much, Gavin. Y'all take care. Thank you for having me.
Before you go, someone did have a question. They wanted to know, what did you think about the more progressive FBA ADOS taking over organizations like the NAACP?
Love it. That's a great idea. That person, Flournoy, that's exactly the mindset we need to have, Flournoy. We need to take over every damn organization. We need to run for every office throughout this country, especially in areas like Louisiana, where Black Americans are. We know the census undercounts us. So let's say 32 to 36% of the population. South Carolina, where we're between 28 to 32 to 33% of the population. The blacker the state, the more on coal. I just don't want a black face. The more on coal candidates we need to have running for office. So Flournoy, you have the right idea. We need to be running. We need to be applying to join these organizations en masse. One of us can help. I joined the South Carolina Democratic Black Caucus. And guess what? I invited other Black South Carolinians that I know are on code, reparationists. And guess what? Now, because of that, we're doing a reparations training here very soon. We now have a reparations subcommittee to get the word out to other people in South Carolina about the importance of candidates having a reparations platform. That was just little old me and one other person, Nicola Hemphill, who's running for mayor of her small town in South Carolina, Fairfax. Fairfield, excuse me. So no, Waynesboro, South Carolina, but it's in Fairfield County. That's just two of us. So one person can make a difference, but the more the merrier. So thank you, Gavin, and y'all take care.
I appreciate it. This has been Gregg Marcel Dixon, ladies and gentlemen. Marcel for Congress. Please support him. We're gonna knock Clockburn out next time. We want to do that. I'm actually considering running for an office myself, particularly locally. I would like to, especially in New Orleans, if there's a recall election, I probably will run for mayor as an independent. That's what I'm thinking. So thank you, Justin Vappy. Thank you, Vappy. How the mayor got her groove back. Did y'all see that? I don't know all of it, but yeah, our mayor, Lee Zurich, who's a known investigative journalist for Fox, was talking about how much time this police officer, who was part of the mayor's detail, was spending in her city apartment. And immediately, when that report was released on November 10th, there actually was a clerk filing. So I want to take a picture of it that showed that the wife of the police officers involved apparently had filed for divorce, it looks like. Now, I don't know all the details of it, and everything else, the chips will fall where they fall. But I'd vote, yeah, I'd run. I I probably could get it. Although you got to be really connected. I don't know anything about the status of it. I know they've had, you know what? They haven't talked too much about it, but whatever it is, they really want the mayor out of New Orleans because they're doing investigations about that, reimbursements from trips and so forth. So it's just been bad overall.
The findings in tonight's story detail what sparked an NOPD investigation. One a crime watchdog says needs to be expanded in scope.
Yeah, not only has Officer Jeffrey Vappy been logging long hours on his timesheets, but Mayor Cantrell's schedule and travel documents raised new questions about what work Vappy is paid for when the mayor is outside the office. Here's our new investigation. In late August, Mayor Cantrell made a 3-day trip to the nation's capital to meet with the Department of Justice. The mayor arrived in D.C. on an early Sunday flight, accompanied by NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappy, who served as her security on duty. The mayor had no meetings on her calendar that day, but Vappy, her security, billed taxpayers for 15 hours of work, 7 a.m. until 10 at night. The next day, the only event on the mayor's calendar was a 1:30 p.m. meeting. That day, Vappy claims he worked another 15 hours from 7 a.m. until 10 at night. Then on Tuesday, the two flew back, according to the mayor's schedule, an early morning flight. Records show that flight arrived back in New Orleans 23 minutes early, just before 10 a.m. Records show the mayor had two other members of her security team on duty that day. Still, after returning to New Orleans around 10 in the morning, Vappy continued to get paid, going off the clock at 9 that night.
And so I think that, the taxpayers are going to be concerned that, we are paying city employees, but we have no evidence that they're actually doing the work that we're paying them for.
Vappy is one of 4 members of the mayor's security team. Our investigation found since August, Vappy has spent many of his work days inside the city's Upper Pontaba apartment, which the mayor has been using personally. We've analyzed 45 days worth of surveillance video from a public camera right outside the entrance to the city-owned apartment. For the 35 days we spotted Cantrell at the apartment, Officer Jeffrey Vappy was on the other side of that door for 27 of them. Each day, the minimum amount of total time he spent there in one day was 1 hour and 1 minute. All total, in 27 days, he was inside for than 112 hours. Since joining the security team in late May of last year, Vappy has traveled more with the mayor than any other member of her detail. Luis Martinez, the longest-serving member of the mayoral executive team, hasn't traveled once in 2 years. Robert Monlin 4 times. Vappy 7 in 16 months. And a review of those trips and his timesheets raised questions about the money he's being paid by taxpayers.
It's about to go down. Well, he's going through divorce, so he's gonna have to put in overtime. Shit, that's never funny, and it's true. I've seen the record. It looks like it's official that his wife is filing for the divorce against him. So it's sad it's sad for that family, especially if if it's true. Because I'm not upstairs we don't know what's going on in that apartment, and we don't know what's been going on with them. I'm not gonna insinuate anything, but it looks like there's a lot going on. The bodyguard.
Friday, January 21st of this year.
Vappy is the bodyguard. Grown people are not just friends. Oh, come on now. You can be friends with somebody and y'all are adults. Lady Eloise, Marcus, darling. You know, I've met the mayor's husband, Jason. Not close with him, but I know him. We've met a couple of times. I've seen him in court. But yeah, and I think what I heard they were living separately because she's staying, I guess, up where the mayor's off where the mayor's apartment is up there. But yeah, their secrets coming out like that. Yeah, and it's hard for that. Feel real sorry for that family, for Vappy's family that's going through this, the kids and the wife that she's got to go through that. But man, you gotta be, well, especially when if you are, and I don't know for a fact because I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to be sued for saying something that's not true. But if you creeping on your old lady or your wife, please make sure it's not the mayor. Somebody. The last thing I wanted to talk about, Mutulu Shakur, the stepfather to Tupac Shakur, who was arrested back in 1986, has been released, is set to be released on parole from prison out in Connecticut. According to this, Mutulu Shakur, who has a form of stage 3 multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer that affects both the bones and kidneys. He is set to be released from Federal Medical Center in Lexington, Kentucky. Now, this, of course, stems from an alleged crime and robberies that had taken place back in the 80s. He was incarcerated for decades, stemming from a 1988 conviction for leading a group of revolutionaries in a string of armed robberies in New York and Connecticut, including one that left 3 people dead. His supporters have considered him to be a political prisoner, given the fact that uh, he has always been an activist against racial repression from the 70s. And of course, we knew that he was the stepfather of Tupac Shakur, Tupac Amaru Shakur. He was married to Tupac's mother. So, over the summer, the United States Attorney for Manhattan, Damian Williams, denied a motion for compassionate release, citing the severity of Shakur's crimes. The decision came as a blow to organizers who were hopeful the motion would be approved. However, he has been released on parole, which is much more different. I shouldn't have said passionate release. I should say he's up for parole in December of this year. So he's still in jail, but he's set to be released just due to his illness that he's facing. But they would not allow him to be released from prison on a compassionate release. So Shakur was serving a 60-year sentence for conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, bank robbery, armed bank robbery, and bank robbery murder. He was also convicted of helping Joanne Chesimard, aka Asada Shakur, escaped from a New Jersey prison in 1979, according to the Associated Press and Thompson. But advocates like Muhammad have said the government targeted Shakur all those years to quell his activism and believe that at the time of his arrest in 1986, Shakur was doing his own independent investigation of COINTELPRO, an FBI campaign to discredit radical black liberation groups that were deemed illegal. Now, Shakur's supporters and families feel the decision to release him represents a bittersweet victory. It's been astounding and beautiful to meet folks who knew Mutulu before his incarceration and continue to fight for him. Muhammad said it'll be so beautiful when we see pictures of him reunited with his family. It's sad to see something like this. It's always when I hate when someone is sick and dying. They usually, he has not necessarily, from a legal standpoint, been vindicated. But we have seen, especially after many men serve 30-year sentences, 40-year sentences in some instances, and sometimes even longer than that, if they're lucky, be released from prison, but they're released when they're a former shell of themselves. They're not themselves. They're severely ill. They're sick. And they want to, of course, now that they are near death, they get vindicated. But where is the justice in that? Where is the compensation for losing 30, 40 years of your life? Losing the ability to be with your wife and children who may have divorced you and moved on. See, that can't happen now with Mutulu Shakur, given that he is facing a severe severe disease that likely will kill him. He's stage 3. And we know that in prison, it is not the best of conditions anybody would want to be in. So I really feel deeply sorry for Brother Mutulu Shakur. Hope that his family, that they do get a sense of closure, being with their father, with their brother and loved one during his last few years. Yeah, you're absolutely right, DeAndre. But yeah, it sucks. The government still got their foot on their backs. And this is why a lot of people have suspected that something happened with Pac because the government was on his back. The government was attacking that family. The government didn't like his mama, Mutulu Shakur, Asadi Shakur. They go off all after all them Shakurs. Tupac was one of the best. Afeni Shakur, was Tupac's mother. Tupac was one of the most successful musical artists in the world. He appealed to so many people. And a lot of people think that members in law enforcement and the government in particular had to stop that because of his message. Yeah. But yeah, Miss Afeni Shakur, yeah, may she rest in peace too. May both of them rest in peace, Tupac and Afeni Shakur. So up next, ladies and gentlemen, I did want to point this out. Did y'all see this video? This is here's the next jack off of the day. This former city councilman out in New Jersey called the police on a black girl, and you won't believe. Well, I guess you will believe what it was for. But he's accused of calling the police on this girl for. Just watch.
We're black women.
I won't say no more. Just watch.
Sidewalks and trees. Elizabeth to Florence. I don't know what the hell she's doing. It scares me though.
It was a call to police about suspicious activity on this quiet block in Caldwell on October 22nd, made by a neighbor who says he saw what he believed was a young woman spraying an unknown substance on trees. That little black woman, as he described, was the 9-year-old daughter of Monique Joseph, who was on the sidewalk killing lanternflies with a homemade solution, a practice she had been doing all summer.
She wanted to feel like she was doing something, and it was the one thing that she could feel powerful doing, and she's saving a tree. We love trees.
But it's not how neighbor Gordon Lawshe saw it, which led to a police call and a response.
And I was steadying myself because I didn't want him to feel my anger and then I get myself in trouble.
The officer, she said, was able to resolve the situation quickly, but what remained with her was the anger that a call to police was made in the first place.
Bobby is not a woman. She is 9 years old. All I can think is, what was his intentions? What did he expect to happen on the other side of that? Was he okay as her neighbor with her being approached by the police? Racism, intentional or not, is still racism.
Joseph would later recount the incident at a Caldwell City Council meeting last week in a fiery speech made to town officials, where she received an apology from the mayor.
And I'm so sorry that your daughter experienced that.
The neighbor who called police, Gordon Lawshe, did not want to speak to us on camera, referring us to his attorney. The homeowner later called police on us. As many as 3 police cars responded to the scene Thursday afternoon. An attorney for Mr. Lawshe told Pix 11 News over the phone that the incident was a result of a complete misunderstanding and it's now being blown out of proportion. He also warned of a possible defamation lawsuit against several individuals, including the girl's mother, may now be on the horizon. In Caldwell, I'm Andrew Ramos, Pix 11 News.
So he's threatening to sue them when he falsely called 911 on this little girl. This was a dude. This was a kid. So we got called, can't sell water, can't have a barbecue in the park. You can't walk to your house. You can't get your mail. You can't bird watch. You can't obviously now go in a hotel that you ordered. You can't have your phone, and someone thinks you stole it. Lanternflies in the mix. To answer your question, M. Flowerly, I don't have a specialty, but I work. I've had a general practice before, so I did personal injury, family law, and some probate, but I do criminal law as well. And right now I work as a PD. So he wants to file a possible lawsuit against them that attacked this child. You notice he described this girl as a woman, a little woman. It's not a woman, it's a child. So he purposely did that, and it's my understanding they came in with their hands on their guns. This 9-year-old is going to be traumatized by what she had to experience because some asshole can't see a child, they see an animal. They don't see a person. And they get scared. They're frightened. They're frightened of this little girl who is doing nothing more than catching lanternflies. This started. So I say to hell with this neighbor. This demon knew what he was doing. Yes, absolutely. Excuse me. Yeah, he needs to put his ass on blast. I never have thought we was human. They never do. But I hope this sister got a good attorney she can hire there needs to be repercussions for this. When you falsely call 911, I'm glad that woman who called 911 on TO got busted. This person needs to get busted for it. I don't know what the laws in New Jersey are, in New Jersey is, but if there's a false reporting of 911, this guy needs to get it. Because he called the police on a kid and probably could have, likely, by how he described her, could have caused her either to get severely hurt or killed. He needs to get busted. But I'm going to wrap it up, guys. We had a great broadcast. I was glad we did this early. Shout out to our guest, Gregg Marcel Dixon, ladies and gentlemen. Go on Twitter, follow that Marcel for Congress. Also, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe, hit that like, share, and subscribe button right now if you have not. Join the Patreon at the link right there. And if you want to advertise, promote your business, you go right here, ladies and gentlemen. Advertise on that. Subscribe to Commonwealth Cosby. Get the book Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby, which is on Amazon Kindle, ladies and gentlemen, right now. And also go to naughtyscreoleblends.com. Order you some Creole seasoning blend. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Naughty's goes great with every dish. So we have our songs, including Video Soul and Gotta Get On Up. So normally we usually just get on out of here, but I'm going to play Gotta Get On Up before we get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. I will be back Tuesday. But I was so happy that Gregg was able to come on. So perhaps we may have another special guest this week. Won't say who, but I'm looking and working on that now. But in the meantime, you guys get up and dance as we do this. And Danielle, I'm glad your child is doing better. All right. I'll see y'all Tuesday, guys. It's been a great one. I might check out. I was looking at some clips of Dave Chappelle on SNL. I heard he killed it. I appreciate it, Flower Noy. Thank you. Please subscribe to the channel. Donate. Oh, I got to tell y'all, please donate to the CashApp, PayPal, and Zelle to support me. This channel is not monetized, so any donations that you have are helpful, ladies and gentlemen. Please support by donating as well, guys. All right. CashApp, $ GavinRichardEsq. All right, guys. I'll holla. Peace out.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, because on the dance floor is where we'll meet. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the instead. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something and feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up.
Now, 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so, if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll
feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something and feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up, baby. Yeah, gotta get on up. Come on, baby, gotta get on up, baby. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up.